RFK fired the entire CDC advisory board. This was amazing.
Robert Kennedy Jr. is taking a lot of heat, as you could see, for firing the CDC's Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices. The committee is made up of experts who focus on setting adult and childhood vaccine schedules. They help make national policy on vaccines like flu, COVID, and shingles, and they make recommendations for non-routine vaccines in case you want to travel or there's an outbreak. Kennedy says the old committee rubber-stamped whatever Big Pharma gave them and pushed unnecessary vaccines onto Americans and their children. So now Kennedy appointed his own panel. Among them is Dr. Robert Malone, who helped with the early research of the mRNA vaccine that was then used during the COVID outbreak. But he advised people not to get the vaccine. And since then, he's been accused of spreading misinformation during the pandemic, recently accused of downplaying the effectiveness of the measles vaccine. Wired magazine called him a, quote, mainstay in conspiratorial circles. Dr. Malone joins us now. Good to see you, sir. Thank you. I think you've said before that being anti-vaccine is not a bug, but a feature. Why do you want to be on a panel about vaccines if you're against most vaccines?
I'm not, and I think that's a misquote. And I frankly am a little unhappy with your framing of me being a major vaccine skeptic. I've spent most of my career, I'm now 65, developing vaccines. For instance, one project that I worked on for New Link Genetics was involving the Ebola vaccine, and I actually brought that vaccine to Merck Vaccines Corporation and arranged for them to purchase it and take that forward. And I also arranged for them to get capital from the government to develop that project. And we now have a licensed Ebola vaccine. I've worked on vaccines my entire life. I object to the bypassing of fundamental medical ethics, such as the importance of informed consent. And I object to the bypassing of established regulatory guidance as it relates to things like gene therapy products and technologies and fundamentals of vaccines. That's been my objection. And I am someone who experienced very early the harms associated with the mRNA products. I developed POTS syndrome, hypertension with systolic to 230, a number of other symptoms that have since been revealed to be relatively common.
Okay.
Probably myocarditis. So framing me as a vaccine skeptic is another one of those ironies. Because in fact, what I am is a vaccine developer.
Due respect, I'm not framing you that way. The Wall Street Journal, among others, are. And I was asking.
Yeah, Wired Magazine, Atlantic Monthly, New York Times. Sure. We can go on and on and on.
Right. No, but I guess what I'm trying to ask you is, why do you think they're doing that?
I can't speculate about what goes on in other people's minds, and I don't want to go down conspiracy road about why you're seeing harmonized messaging from multiple corporate media outlets about Bobby, about this issue. It's really, it amazes me that so much is being made of this. We have much bigger issues like the one you were just covering a moment ago.
I agree. There's a lot of issues here, but for some reason, and I can't quite figure out why, the issue of vaccines has taken and become this Rorschach test around America. I guess the flip side to say is that there's a lot of parents who are quite worried that if the rest of the country or a certain amount of the population doesn't get vaccines, that it makes their children vulnerable. Do they have a reason to be fearful?
So let's examine that. Take that apart just for a minute. If you look under the covers with that statement, and it's akin to a lot of the propaganda that came out during the COVID crisis, that if you didn't get your child vaccinated, you were going to basically put grandmother at risk. The logic here is that if you unpack it, that my child, who, if I'm the parent, I have the option of having these vaccines for my child, is not going to be sufficiently protected if your child doesn't take the product. Well, that immediately demonstrates that the product is not as effective as we've been
True.
told it is.
We mentioned that during COVID. Let me
That's a
ask
really
you one more
good
question, and then
perspective
we're going to
there.
let you go. But what do you want to change in this panel that you're now a part of?
So I serve at the request of the Secretary, and by extension at the request of the President, and I'm proud to do so.
What have they asked you to do?
The Secretary's interest is in reinvigorating a panel that is truly grounded in scientific approach, a rigorous data approach, a willingness to question the information that is being put before it. And having sat through so many ACIP meetings myself, the accusation that the group has become a rubber stamp, and as was documented today by Epoch Times and Zachary Stiver reporter, that even in the most recently retired group, you had a number of very clear conflicts, financial conflicts of interest. That has to stop.
Okay.
And here's my position on this. Coming out of the COVID crisis, if we've learned nothing, we should have learned that public policy should be made by public officials, not by unelected bureaucrats and scientists.
Okay.
And that's the role of ACIP. The ACIP is a FACA committee. Its purpose is to advise the director of CDC, who is the one that really needs to make the decision. So the intention here is that the ACIP will be more active, more rigorous, more questioning, more focused on actual data.
All right, so he brought, that was a real, I don't know if you caught on to that, of what he said. He said that if one child is vaccinated and the other child isn't vaccinated, why are people now fearing that by more children not being vaccinated, it's going to harm the vaccinated one? Then what you're saying is the vaccinated child is not truly safe from getting sick with this vaccine, is what you're insinuating. So in a nutshell, you're saying the vaccine doesn't actually safeguard the child. That's what he was saying. And I thought that was a really good argument to make, which proves that the reason why people believe that vaccines are not safe is because they haven't been. Because they've been literally governed by people who haven't bothered to do enough actual evidence-based testing on any of them. And that's, bro. Okay, so there was this guy that sent me an Instagram who I thought was an acquaintance, and I was very wrong. But he was bombarding me with a bunch of crap, and he ended up explaining to me this and how he sees it. So the left is seeing this as authoritarian, and how, you know, now they're going to view things their way, and it's like that's how it was happening already. So the people that were in charge of that board that RFK fired, they were not questioning any of the vaccines that were in the vaccine list to vaccinate children with. They didn't question not one. And there's like more than 16 vaccines you're giving to children by the age of 18. And they didn't question any of them. Why wouldn't you fire them? By you not questioning not one vaccine, you're putting thousands, millions of babies at risk. And then now we're coming into the framework of why now are kids autistic? Why now do kids have autoimmune diseases? Why are these diseases more common on children than they were in the past? Maybe it's because of the fact that we have people that were in charge that were allowing a dozen vaccines to be injected into a baby fresh off the womb without even questioning whether that was a good thing. Oh, no, it's fine. It's fine. No, it's obviously it's not fine, because the data is showing there's a high rate of autism, there's a high rate of obesity, there's a high rate of diabetes, there's a high rate of autoimmune diseases. So obviously it's not fine. And then people are like, oh my God, I can't believe he fired all these people. No, I'm glad he fired all those people. This is a good thing, guys. This is not a bad thing at all. This is going to actually show that the people that were in charge were destroying the immunity of children on purpose. On purpose. Why? I don't know. Maybe to keep us sick in order for the big pharma to continue profiting off of people. I don't know. That's a really dark pill to swallow, but I don't care. I'm a conspiracy theorist at heart at the end of the day, so I'm going to put my conspiracy hat on, and that sounds pretty truthful to me. I could be wrong, but why would you allow all these vaccines to be put into these children without actually questioning whether they actually work or whether it doesn't have consequences later down the line? That is your job as a scientist, is to find this out beforehand. It's not for you to experiment on children, especially newborns. So this is going to show more transparency in the health industry. And again, oh my God, again showing that the past administration was exhibiting fascist-like behavior by literally telling people, no, you have to get these vaccines because these bureaucrats say so, and you can't question otherwise. But yet, we're living in a fascist government. Yeah. Okay.